Now, just to begin, if you could explain to our listeners exactly what's this Universal Declaration of Human Rights all about and how exactly it came into being.
Okay, well, I think I would start by saying that it's a foundational document for humanity. If you look at the very first article of this universal document, it talks about we the people. It was signed in 1948, document. It talks about we the people. It was signed in 1948, just following the World War II atrocities, where the global community basically came together and say, never again. And it basically prescribed that all human beings, no matter where you are born in the planet, rich or poor, privileged or underprivileged, are entitled to human rights by virtue of being a human being. It's inherent to all human beings without distinction, without discrimination. And it provides for freedoms. And I think this is the very essence of what it means to be a human being. It's a document that has a lot of meaning for the United Nations. It's a document that was signed around the time when the United Nations came into existence and has become very much foundational in terms of the aims and purposes of the organization and the citizens and individuals of the world that we're intended to serve.
Mm-hmm. Now, one would wonder how applicable and relevant is this declaration today? How can we make reference to it today in terms of the human rights situations that we are dealing with today?
Well, I think I would first off by saying that it is very relevant because countries around the world, including this country in South Africa, have taken inspiration from it in adopting their own constitutions. So if we were to bring it to the South African context, if you would look and actually read the South African Constitution, it very much emulates this Universal Declaration for Human Rights. So across the world, you have a document that has provided and given, life to the whole notion of human rights and what it means in everyday people's lives. So I would say that it's very relevant for that reason. I would say that it's also relevant because it comes at a time when we are, at least in South Africa, it's colliding in terms of the various commemorative anniversaries. It comes at a time of convergence in terms of the Mandela Centenary, the Albertina Sisulu Centenary, as well as the fact that we're celebrating 70 years. And I think it's really an opportune moment for this country to reflect in terms of how far it's come in its human rights journey and what remains to be done. And I think if we take it outside the South African context, we certainly have an opportunity to look at the different countries across the world and say, okay, where has our human rights journey taken us? How far have we gone in trying to live up to the obligations that we have? And where do we need to go? I think what's important is that we always remember that human rights are not just lofty messages. They're not just feel-good factors. It's really about legal requirements of states to be able to promote, protect, and respect and fulfill the human rights of individuals within their countries. It's not just about soft things. It really is about the things that are meaningful for everybody across the world.
Just to follow up on that, I like what you say, that human rights are not just lofty messages, because I wanted to ask, in terms of respecting this declaration, what's your view? Are states really taking what this declaration entails and putting it into practice to better the lives of people?
Well, the beauty about the Universal Declaration is it started very much as a declaration, but the document has been translated into legally binding obligations, which take the form of treaties, which many countries have subsequently ratified. And in ratifying those documents, countries are now obligated to live up to that expectation of protecting, promoting, fulfilling, and respecting those rights. They are subject to scrutiny on a periodic basis, where they are reviewed in terms of their compliance and what remains to be done. I think it's fair to say that there is no country in the world that is spared of its human rights challenges. But looking at it, I think what it does is it offers it an opportunity to look at how far progress has come and what remains to be done. And every country is variable in terms of its progress and what what remains outstanding, I would say, in that respect.
Okay. One last question now. World leaders are gathering in New York this week where they are discussing various issues, and at the end of the day, these issues all boil down to human rights. If you look at the issue on migration, the global compact that will be formally adopted, and the scourge of non-communicable diseases like TB. So from a human rights point of view, what message from your office would you like to share in terms of what leaders are talking about at the UN?
Well, I think at this summit that's just been taking place in New York, I think it started off with a peace summit, a message from Mandela himself in this centenary year, and the adoption of this decade of peace. I think it's a very important reminder for the UN system as a whole and member states across the world that we can do more in this quest for peace, security, development, and human rights, which are the foundational pillars of the United Nations system. And if we're looking at the issue of migrants, for instance, or health, the situation of health, I think there again, because I think there's also lots of discussions right now in New York around the issues around TB as well. I think that the human rights message in that context is to really say that no matter who you are, whether you are a migrant or a citizen of a country, whether you're a person living with HIV or whether you're a person with TB, you don't relinquish your human rights by virtue of being a migrant, for instance. All people enjoy the same, can enjoy the same human rights. And it's not because of your regular or irregular migratory status that's going to change. And I think that is something that the world leaders across the world are struggling with. But, the message that what we're trying to advocate for as the Human Rights Office is that you don't get rid of the enjoyment of your human rights or your inalienable rights, as we call them in the human rights world, by virtue of being a migrant.
Abigail, I think we'll leave it there. I think there was a nice flow instead of now talking about a lot of things and end up getting confused along the way. Yeah. I liked that. I will leave it there for today.
Thank you.
Thanks
so much.
Yeah. I hope you could use some of it.
I definitely will. I'll use
I think he's going to use all of it.
I'm going to use all of it.
No, but I got a video clip. You know what happens when you're videoing for social media is that you stop the video.